Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so we start our new chapter today, chapter 8. Okay, chapter 8 is about developing an effective ethics programs. Okay, so the learning objective for this chapter. Okay, the first learning objective here, we want to understand the responsibility of the corporations to be a moral agents. Okay, later we will learn about the definitions of the moral agents. Then we want to understand why the business needs to develop the ethics program. Okay, why is important for our business. Yes, we will list out the minimum requirements for an ethics programs, describes the role of codes of ethics in identifying key risk area for the organizations. Then we also going to identify the key to successful ethics trainings, including the program types and also the program's goals. And lastly, we're going to examine the ways that ethical standards are monitored, audited, and enforced, and to understand the need for continuous improvements. Okay, so for this chapter, we have 6 learning objectives. Okay, let's start. Okay, corporations as moral agents. Okay, corporations have the same right and responsibility as individuals. Okay, for examples, all of the employees in the corporation, in the organization, they must obey the law. They must obey the law and regulations that defines acceptable business conduct. Okay, not only the employees. Okay, same goes to the individuals. Individuals, for example, the customers, the investors. Okay, the suppliers, government, the customers. Okay, they also need to obey the law and regulations. Okay, individual, everyone's okay, no matter individual or corporations, companies, businesses, all need to follow the law. Okay, so the corporate cultures without values and appropriate communications about the ethics can facilitate individual misconduct. So the ethical corporate cultures does not evolve, okay, but it requires ethical policy, okay. And implementing a corporate ethics program is promotes the corporations as a moral agents. As the moral agents, right, the companies they are required to obey all of the law and regulations. Okay, however, it's very important to analyze that they are not human beings who can think through the moral issue. Okay, because the company are not human, so that's why the law and regulations are necessary. Okay, are necessary to provide the formal structures and guidance to the employee in that organizations. So the corporations that are increasingly viewed as the moral agents that are accountable for their conduct to the stakeholder. And the law and regulation are necessary to provide the formal structure, restraint, and guidance on the ethical issue. Okay, for example, the employee in that organizations, they have the moral obligations to responsibly think about some ethical issue to contribute to the ethical conduct of the corporations. So if you look at this statistic, okay, this figures illustrates the most common also forms of misconduct. Okay, this one is of Fortune's 500 corporations. Okay, of these corporations, Fortune's 500. So from here, what we can observe here, okay, the highest percentage here, again, the most common also of misconduct is personal business on the company time. Okay, they use the company time. For example, if they are working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, okay, they will use some of the times in between, okay, to do their personal business. For example, they do the sales. For example, if there are some agents to some product, okay, they will spend some of the times, okay, some of the workings hour, the company's time to do some marketing, okay, at the Facebook, okay, at their personal social media, or they use the company times, okay, for some personal matter. For example, they're going out from the office, okay, do their own matters, okay. So this is the most common also from misconduct. And it's followed by the abusive behavior, 22%, and 21% lines to the employees, followed by the discriminations, 18%, okay, and then health and safety violations, company resource abuse, 17%, and internet abuse, okay, 17%. Okay, so here is why the companies need the ethics programs. Okay, why is the need for the organizations to have ethics program? So to understand why the companies need to develop some ethics program, okay, so we need to judge whether is of the things that we do is unethical or illegal. Okay, for example, you are fired from your companies, okay, but before leaving for positions with another company, you copy a confidential list of clients' names and telephone numbers you compile for your former employee. So these actions, okay, we need to define either is unethical or illegal. Okay, so based on the situations that I gave you just now, okay, this situation is both, okay, is unethical and also illegal. Okay, so it's nearly impossible to know all relevant law. Okay, same goes to the lawyer. Okay, the lawyer, they are not knowing all of the law because they are specific in certain field. Okay, so for us individual, it's also impossible for us to know all relevant law, right? So that's why ethics programs increase the ethical awareness. So the organizations, it can become the bad bearer, okay? It can become the bad bearer. For example, okay, they can use the pressure to succeed, creates opportunity rewarding the unethical decisions. Then they also can establish the ethics programs, helps the employee determines what behavior are acceptable. Okay? Because from the ethics program here, they give the awareness to the employee. Okay, they comes out with all of the costs, all of the values, all of the standards. Okay, into the corporate cultures, and they communicate all of these things, okay, to the lower levels or to the all of the employees. Then next one is the components of a strong ethic programs. So a strong ethic programs is include written codes of conduct, okay, written conduct, and then they must have the ethic officer, okay. They must appoint one employees to oversee the ethical programs, okay, the ethic program in organizations, okay. This individual we call that as the ethics officer. If in the some companies, we also call that as the compliance officers, okay, compliance officer. In well, this their job scope include they deal with the audits. They deal with the audits. Okay, if in the education lines, this ethics officer they will deal with the MQA audits. They will deal with lots of auditing. Okay, then a strong ethics program is also need to be careful delegation of the authorities. A formal ethics trainings. Okay, that means the ethics trainings that are provided by the companies. Okay, they are organized by the ethics officers just now. Regards auditing, okay, monitoring, enforcements, and revisions of the program's standards. Regards audits, normally the companies they will do the audits twice a year, okay, twice a year, and monitoring by the ethics officer and the enforcement of the law and regulations, okay, and then revisions of the program standards. Normally, they will do the revision of the program standard after they going through the auditing. Okay, after they going through the auditings, the auditor they will give some comments, they will give some feedbacks, okay, and also some suggestions on how they can improve the programs, can improve the ethic programs. Okay, so after that, the ethic officer and also the top management they will revise again of the program standards. Okay, they follow the suggestions from the auditors. So effective ethics programs, they will ensure that all employees understand and comply with the ethical cultures. We cannot assume that employees know how to behave when entering a new job. Okay, we cannot assume this thing because we know that organizations will have different culture, right? Each organization. Same goes to the individual. Each individual we have different moral philosophy, we have different behaviors again, so we cannot assume that once we have a new companies, a new employees, they will know how to behave, okay, because we come from the diverse business, diverse education's background, diverse families backgrounds, okay, so we cannot assume that everyone will behave the same, okay, when they enters a new organizations. Then the ethic program, it can act as important deterrence to the organization's misconduct. The employees, they were take the classes in the ethic, okay, in order to help them to understand how to resolve any ethical dilemmas in the workplace. So when they receive the training, okay, for example, online trainings, okay, it can raise their awareness of the ethical issue, and then at the same time, it can assist them in maintaining an ethical organizational cultures. Ethic programs and avoiding legal problems. Okay, FSGO. You ever heard about FSGO in the previous chapter, right? Okay, FSGO stands for the Federal Sentencing Guidelines for Organizations. Okay, so how this FSGO helps in encourage assessing the theories. Okay, so the firms, they can use the assessments to update their internal control mechanisms. Thus, the ethics program also must be designed and implemented to address these risks, and the ethics programs can help firms avoid any civil liability if they show the due diligence in preventing the misconduct. So effective risk management assessment here is involved not only the legal issue, but also environmental issue, the health and safety issue, and also other risk area. Okay, so the companies, they must prioritize, okay, this risk based on their potential impact on organizations. Okay. So this table, it shows the minimal requirements for the ethics and for the ethics programs, okay, ethics programs or compliance program, okay, we also call it as the compliance programs. So if you look at these tables, there are several minimum requirements. The first requirement here is the standard and procedure, okay, SOP. For example, the codes of ethics that are reasonable capable of detecting and preventing misconduct. This means every organization, they must set one SOP, okay, one SOP for detecting and preventing the misconduct. The second requirement is the high-level personnel who are responsible for an ethic and compliance program. Okay, for example, the ethic officer just now, okay, or maybe above the ethic officer, the ethic officer are monitored by CEO. Okay, for example, CEO, and the CEO is ethic officer. Okay, so the high-level personnel here, it may refer to the CEO just now. Okay. So no substantial discretionary authority given to the individual with a propensity for the misconduct. And then standards and procedures communicated effectively, okay, via the ethics training program. Okay, that's why each organization, they must have the ethics training programs. Okay, and the companies, okay, the corporations, top managements, or the ethics officers, they must communicate all of this SOP to their subordinates, okay, to the employees, and they must make sure that each of the employees understand about the SOP. Then system to monitor, audit, and report misconduct. For example, the companies, they can use the hotlines, okay, to report any misconduct, and the identity of the reporter they can submit is PNC, okay, they can make PNC, any reporter they can make PNC. So they must have one system, how to monitor, how to audit, and also how to report misconduct. For example, for the audit just now, they can set that each year they must have at least twice, okay? At least twice. They must do twice audits each year, okay? And then consistent enforcement of standards, code, and punishments. Okay, for this one, they must have one ethics officer. Okay, to oversee all of these things, to oversee the standards of the ethics, the punishment of the ethics. Okay, they must do is consistent. They cannot say, okay, some of the employees, if they do wrong, okay, will not be punished. Some of the employees, they must be punished. They cannot do something like this. Okay, it must be consistent. And continuous improvements of the ethics and compliance program. Okay, improvements, this one normally is based on the suggestions by the auditors. Auditors, they will suggest, okay, they will give the feedback, okay, from all of this feedback, the company, they must do the improvements, okay, continuous improvements for the ethics programs. So these are the 7 minimum requirements for the ethics and also compliance programs. So these are figures which is justified to survive. Okay, this shows about what's the people normally says. Okay, when they found, okay, this is the which is justified to survive. The research done by the E&Y companies, okay, growing beyond a place for integrity. Or there are 12 global fraud survey, okay, surveyed by the E&Y. So this one is which, if any of the following, okay, do the global CFO feel justified if they help a business survive an economic downturn? Okay, here we can see 34%. 34% is for the entertainment to win, okay, or to retain the business, followed by, oh, the highest one, oh, now of this. Okay, followed by 20% is personal gift, okay, and then 15% they use the cash payments to retain the business, and 4% they will mistake in the company financial performance, okay. So here is very important for the organization to consider some incentive for the employee who do act according to ethical standards. That's why the FSGO, they encourage some of the federal judges to increase the fines for the organizations that continually tolerate the misconduct. And at the same time, they want to reduce or eliminate the fine for the firms with some of the extensive compliance programs, okay? This is one of the questions that comes out in previous past year examinations. Okay, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of implementing an ethics programs with a compliance orientation versus one with a value orientation. So which is one better than the other in maintaining an ethical organizations? So this is one of the famous questions as well, okay, in the for the past year examinations. For this type of questions, first you need to discuss the advantages, okay? Here is the advantages and also the disadvantages of implementing ethics program with compliance orientations. The compliance orientation versus the value orientation we learned in previous chapter, right? Okay. First, you need to list down the advantages and also the disadvantages, okay? Then you need to decide which one is better, okay, than the other and maintaining an ethical organizations. For these questions, okay, the answer is the ones that better than the other and maintaining an ethical organization is the value orientations, okay, is the value orientations. Never mind, for this question, you try to answer in your tutorial, okay, and then I will give you the answer. when we discuss the tutorial answer. Okay, you try to answer these questions in your tutorial for chapters. This one is chapter 8. Okay, in chapter 8, try to answer first. Then I will give you the answer. Okay, this is the compliance and value orientations. For the compliance orientations, it requires the employees identify with and commit to specific conduct. Okay, it's also use the legal term, statutes, and contracts to teach the rule and penalties for the non-compliance. This compliance orientation is creates the orders by requiring the employees to identify with and also commit to specific requires conduct. Okay, so the other system is the value orientations. Value orientation is strives to develop shared value, in where it's focused on ideas such as accountabilities and also the commitments. And there was studies, and it found is more effective at creating ethical reasonings, Creating reasonings, the foundation of an organization's ethical cultures. Because studies they found that when the personal and the organization's value are compatible with one another, it tends to positively influence the workplace ethics. So the advantage for this value orientations, these value orientations, it gives the employees to clearly define the basis on which to make the decisions. While is fairness, compassion, respect, transparency, is paramount. And at the same time, for the value orientation here, the diversity in the employee's experience and also the personal values, it requires the explicit communications and training on subject matter area. For example, financial reporting, the use of the company resources, and also the intellectual properties. So that's why establish the compliance standard. It can help the employees understand the rules of conduct when there are identified risks. So if we compare these value orientations with the compliance-based programs, these compliance-based programs are linked to the employee awareness of the ethical risk at the works, and also a clear understanding of the rule and expectations that facilitate the decisions making, right? So this value-based program, for this one, it can increase the employee awareness, increase the employee awareness. At the same time, it also can increase the employee integrity, their willingness to deliver the information to supervisor as well, the use of the reporting mechanism, and also the perceptions that ethical decisions are being made for the value orientation. So that's why if we compare between these two, which one is better, which one is better? So the answer is the value orientations here. Actually, both of this orientation, it can be used to help the employee and also the managers. But this value orientation is the foundations of an organization's ethical culture. So, to answering these questions, is one better than the other and maintaining an ethical organization? The answer is the value orientations, is better. Is better. Okay, next one is about the codes of conduct. What is codes of conduct? Codes of conduct is formal statements that describe what an organization's aspect of its employee. So these codes of conduct, they have three different forms. That is codes of ethics. Codes of ethics, codes of conduct, and also the statements of value. This codes of ethics is the most comprehensive, in where it consists of general statements serving as principles and the basis for the rule in a code of conduct. And this code of ethics is generally specifies some method for the reporting violations, and also the disciplinary action for the violations, and also a structure for the due process. We will see in these tables. These tables, it shows about benefit of having some ethic codes. For the statement of value, okay, statement of values is the values that serve the general public and also address the stakeholder interests. Okay, these value statements are conceived by the management and are fully developed with the input from all of the stakeholders. Okay, this table it shows about the benefit of having an ethic cost. Okay, what are the benefits for the companies? We look at the first one here is that the employees in situations where the ethical cost of HA is not immediately obvious. Oh yeah, we have 1 minute remaining time. Okay, I think I will stop here first. Okay, we take 15 minutes rest. Okay, then you join in again using the same link at 2 p.m. Okay, at 2 p.m. So I will stop here first. Okay.